move to GST, and we will implement it in 4 years. It will come into force on 1st of April 2010. We actually gave ourselves 4 years and 2 months to implement GST. But what is GST? GST is now implemented in about 120 or 140 countries, except 1 or 2 countries which are exceptional situations. GST is one rate of tax. When you say one tax, one nation, it must be one tax. The moment you have 2 taxes, it is not GST. So we said we will implement GST. It will be one tax. And if you accept GST, the reward is VAT will go, excise duty will go, service tax will go, octroi will go, entry tax will go, luxury tax will go, all chota mota taxes will go. You pay only one tax called GST, apart from, of course, that perennial tax called income tax. That is the promise we made. That is the promise I made in Parliament. It will be one tax, one rate of tax. That is GST. Everybody will pay that tax, whether he's supplying steel or supplying car, whether he's eating at a restaurant or buying a pair of shoes. It will be one tax. We also recognize that when there is a standard rate of tax, one tax, for some time at least, there must be a standard minus and a standard plus. That's acceptable. There will be a standard rate, which is the one tax. There will be a standard minus on merit goods, which deserve support, and a standard plus on goods where it doesn't require special support. So when we say one tax, world over it's accepted. It is a standard tax, standard minus, and standard plus. Unfortunately, we could not implement it by 2010. Why? Some state governments, some chief ministers, and under the instructions of their chief ministers, the state finance ministers, stoutly opposed GST. I won't take any names today, but the names are well known. Who opposed GST is very well known. It's no secret. They bitterly opposed GST, mainly on the ground that the power of the state government to levy tax will be taken away. Everyone likes to levy a tax, because only when I levy a tax, then I get the power to increase the tax, to decrease the tax, to grant you exemption. You will come running to me and say, "Sir, please exempt me. I can keep you waiting for half an hour before I see you." That power is not the power to tax. It is the power to tease people, power to harass people. When that power is being taken away from state governments were naturally very reluctant to accept this idea of GST because their power to tax is taken away. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we could not implement GST by 2010. By that time, I'd moved to the Home Ministry. Mr. Pranab Mukherjee continued my work and he introduced the Constitution Amendment Bill. That bill was opposed by the same people who opposed the idea of GST, opposed the Constitution Amendment Bill. So that could not pass. I came back to the Finance Ministry in 2012 and I had about 20 months to implement GST. I tried my best. I failed because the principal opposition party simply, bluntly, flatly told us, "Sorry, we are not going to help you pass the bill." We did not have 282 in the Lok Sabha. We had only 201 in the Lok Sabha. So we tried. We didn't succeed. We left the bill. We left the Constitution Amendment Bill. All the spade work had been done. I had set up the GSTN network. All that was done, but we could not pass the bill. The new government comes. Miraculously, the new government changes its mind about GST. Now they say, GST is the greatest thing in earth, therefore we will now implement GST. Just as Manrega, which was called Monument to Congress's failure, became suddenly a great program for social uplift. Aadhaar, which they said, we come to power, we will abolish Aadhaar, today has become the centerpiece of your life. If you don't have an Aadhaar, you don't exist. In fact, in future, I will not ask him, is your name Abhay Chajad? I will ask him, what is your Aadhaar number? You have seen these science fiction movies. In science fiction movies, each robo will come and say, I identify myself as QL5923. Mr. Abhay Chajad will stand up and say, I am XY9252, son of BM3492. So Aadhaar has now become a great boon. The same way, GST became a great tool of change. We accept that. I believe that GST is a good tax. I believe that GST is the way forward. I believe that GST will increase efficiency in tax collection. I believe that GST will eliminate numerous taxes and numerous points of harassment. I believe all that, but I believe that about GST. What has been introduced is not GST. That is the quarrel. And then the government says the Congress party is opposing GST. I'm saying it loud and clear. We are the original authors of GST. We support GST. But what you have introduced is not GST. You have introduced some kind of an animal which we don't recognize. GST is one rate, standard rate, plus and minus. But today we have got rates of 0, 0.25, 5, 12, 18, 28, 40, plus all kinds of cesses. I'm told in Maharashtra, you've got an APMC cess in addition to GST. In Tamil Nadu, they have put a 30% tax on cinema tickets over and above the GST. So on tickets costing less than 100 rupees, it is 18% GST plus 30%. On tickets costing more than 100 rupees, it is 28% GST plus 30%. Who knows which chief minister is going to add more to GST? This is not a one tax regime. This is a multiple tax regime. That is the first objection to the GST that they have introduced. Mr. Vijay Kelka, who is a resident of Pune, many of you may know him, know of him, invite him to speak. What did he recommend? He recommended a one-tax GST. The government asked the Chief Economic Advisor, Dr. Arvind Subramaniam, to present a report on the revenue-neutral rate. His report is available. It is on the website. It was placed in Parliament. That report clearly says it must be one rate, standard minus standard plus, and the rate can be 15 to 15.5%. If they had fixed the rate at 15 to 15.5%, this hall will be empty. If they had fixed one rate, 15 to 15.5%, this hall will be empty. When the debate in Parliament took place, they said states will lose revenue. But I said, your own chief economic advisor has done the calculation. He says at 15.5% it is revenue neutral, so how can states lose money? But then I said, all right, we understand your concern. Add another 2.5%. Keep it at 18%. Don't exceed 18%. That is the standard rate. Have a standard minus and a standard plus. Let me tell you very clearly, if the Congress had been the head of the government today, the GST rate would not have exceeded 18%, and we would have kept it at 18 minus, 18 and 18 plus. It can still happen. When, I cannot say. The second problem with this GST is the compliance. This is why I say, I wrote in one column, every officer of the Revenue Department must be asked to go on a compulsory deputation of 2 weeks to a business before GST is introduced. Every excise commissioner, now GST commissioner, every deputy commissioner, every sales tax commissioner, every sales tax deputy commissioner should have been mandatorily asked to go and work for 2 weeks in an actual business. Only then he will understand what it is to run a business. Compliance world over is you file a return once a quarter. There are some countries where you file a return once in 6 months. Here, you have to file 3 returns a month, 36 returns a year, 1 annual return, 37 returns if you are doing business in 1 state. If you are doing business in 10 states, you'll have to file 370 returns. The Economist magazine, world's best-known economics magazine, has said, if I do business in all the states of India, I'll have to file 1,000 returns. Is this guy supposed to do business or is he supposed to file returns? Why have you made compliance so difficult? The moment you make compliance more difficult, the moment you are giving power to the officer to harass you. I mean, this is something which everybody understands. And if your return for 1 month is wrong, the system won't accept your next month's return. Why have so many returns? I think the date is coming when you have to file returns now. When is it coming? 2 August. Enjoy your Shravan, and then after that, just try to upload. Just try to upload the returns. 37 returns every year, 3 returns a month, 1 on the 10th, 1 on the 15th, and 1 on the 18th. 10, 12, 15, or 10, 12, 15, 18, something like that. I mean, what is the guy supposed to do? Will he go out and look for customers? Will he try to improve his business? Will he try to source raw material from cheaper sources? Will he try to improve his packaging? Will he try to improve his technology? Will he hire people, open a new branch, employ? Will he do that, or will he sit and file returns? All of you will become qualified chartered accountants in 1 year. This is disastrous. No businessman should be asked to file more than 1 return a quarter. It is possible to redesign the GST so that you file just 1 return every quarter and 4 returns in the year. It is possible to design that. The third problem with the GST is, who's my commissioner? If you are below a threshold, 90% will go to state government, 10% will go to central government. Above a threshold, 50% will go to state government, 50% will go to central government. Now, who's my commissioner? How will they decide Which commissioner will decide? Will they have a lottery? Will they run a lottery to decide your commissioner is central government, your commissioner is state government? What is this madness? This is called diarchy. You come under two administrations. How can you comply for the one tax? How can you comply with two administrations? You'll have to be clear which is the commissioner you have to go to. And somebody pointed out today to me that in the agricultural produce markets, a commission is charged. Is GST leviable on the commission? That's a question. Nobody has an answer. I'm told that the central commissioner has said there's no GST on commission. The state ex-sales tax officer says, no, there is GST on commission. Now, if one commissioner says there's no GST on commission, another man says there's GST on, there is GST on commission, how do you run the system? You should have clearly said. See, these are called what the government says, oh, this is a consensus arrived at among finance ministers. I mean, I know how finance ministers meet and what they discuss and how they arrive at conclusions. It is not a consensus. It is a forced compromise. You compromise that, I'll compromise this. You compromise on this point, I will compromise on this point. States will give up this objection, center will give up that objection. It is a forced compromise. And when you force a compromise, you come out and announce to the press, oh, there is a consensus. It's not consensus. Consensus is where everybody agrees. Here, everybody disagrees, but they come and then say, you give up that disagreement, I'll give up this disagreement. It's a forced compromise. As a result of forced compromise, you have got a diarchy in administration today. Utter chaos, utter confusion. One man will issue one notice, another man will issue another notice. For the same business, all kinds of confusion is going to come when enforcement takes place. The next problem is this classification. What was the problem with excise duty? The problem with excise duty is practically every dispute, and if there are lawyers in this audience, if there are chartered accountants, you will understand, are classification disputes. Does it fall under 6001 or does it fall under 6002? Or does it fall under 6010 or does it fall under 6011? That was a dispute. GST was supposed to abolish classification disputes. Everything will have one GST. End of the matter. There's no classification at all. Today they have brought in the entire HSN classification